Welcome back to Reliving Retro, and it has been a bit. We apologize for that. A little bit of a 6-month hiatus, but we're back with Yaiser and, of course, DMC. And if you're new here, we pick one game at random, and then we invite a guest on to rate it, and in 5 different categories: story, gameplay, visuals, sound, and on how well it aged. And I have a little bit of news for the Patreon. Patreon, we're going to have early videos now. So if you join the Patreon, I think it's like $2 a month or something like that. Not only are you going to be able to put your games on that list, so we get to your games a lot faster, but you're also going to get a 100% full gameplay. Everything that we record is going to be on the Patreon. It's not going to be the shortened version for YouTube. You're going to get everything.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and you're also going to get every single episode a week early over on Patreon. Cool. So yeah, and then you can check us out on Twitter or X, Instagram, Discord, TikTok, Spotify if you're watching on YouTube if you're listening on Spotify. And DMC is our guest today because we played Grand Theft Auto Vice City, one of my all-time favorite PS2 games. Hey buddy, why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is DMC PCRT. I'm happy to be back here and chatting games with you all. I'm a retro game streamer kind of guy. I think that I don't know if I feel like that's the title anymore. It's just game streamer, I would like to say. But I cover a lot of games, retro stuff, obviously, and technology and things like that. Stream every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on Twitch, TikTok on Tuesdays usually. We just finished Resident Evil Village, our Resident Evil 8, which means we finished the core games in the Resident Evil series. Every Monday we were playing them, so we finally got through 8. And we're taking a break now, and starting on Monday, we'll be doing Final Fantasy VII Remake on Monday and Tuesday every week until we play that and the sequel. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I can't wait to watch that playthrough because that was one I'd always wanted to get, but I'm like, I'm not buying a PS5 just for that. You know what I mean?
They're on sale right now.
Yeah, it's still, you know what I mean? I'm not really a new console type of dude. Like, I got the Switch and I got my PC, and I feel like I'm set for life, honestly.
Yeah,
I'll just buy the Nintendo
PC
console.
is what I use the most for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll be fine with just those two. What games have you been playing lately? I know you kind of set a stream record this past week. You want to tell the people about that?
As far as just like all the games that I've been playing on my own, or what do you mean by the stream record? What do you mean?
The stream record, you beat 3 games.
Oh yeah, you're right.
On stream.
That is a stream record for me. Yeah, I've been hammering it this year. My goal is to beat 52 new games to me this year in 52 weeks. I think I'm at 15 right now. I can't list them all off the top of my head. But this past week, yeah, we finished Resident Evil Village, which I'm not counting because I have beaten that before. Then we finished Mystical Ninja starring Goemon for the Nintendo 64, which was a just ridiculously crazy one. Yeah, but it's fun. It was a 3D game, not a 2D platformer. It was wacky, it was weird, it was so much fun to experience something that was just really different. Like, I wish I would have played that when I was a kid, because I probably would have been like, you guys got to check this out, this is just bizarre. Then Wednesday we finished Grim Fandango, which I am not an adventure game or point and click game kind of guy. The only one I can ever remember playing was Clue Finders 4th grade edition when I was a kid. And the only reason I played that was because I got grounded from playing video games for like a whole summer, and my parents were like, you can play that, and I'm like, all right.
Even your
that's what I did.
Even your parents were like, that's not really a video game.
Exactly. So that was my experience with it. And so Grim Fandango was funny, but like, it's just the translation, I think, from PC to console didn't help, because there was a lot of times where I'm like, I pressed the action button like 30 times there, but I had to be like 1 pixel over for it to count. So, but yeah, other than that, been playing a bunch of stuff here and there. Game Boy games have been kind of knocking out ones that I've never been able to beat when I was a kid. Metroid 2, we finished that. Simpsons Escape from Camp Deadly, which like was a game that just beat the hell out of me when I was a kid. And then Turtles Fall of the Foot Clan, which was another one that I just couldn't beat when I was a kid. And then I popped it on one of those Ambernick handhelds, and I had an absolutely amazing time with it. I'm like, wow, this is great. How was I so bad at this? So it was actually, I was
going to say, so I've played that one a little bit here and there, just as like a collector. I've picked it up a few times and have popped it in to just try it out. I never beat it, but it reminded me more of like Manhattan Project. Like, it gave me those kind of vibes.
Yeah, it was cool. And like, it had good soundtrack, and it was fun. It was only like 30 minutes, and I think I died twice. So it's not like it's hard. I guess I was just a dumb kid. So
Yeah. So what was I going to say? Okay. So your introduction to gaming, we've been over this a few times, but it's been a bit since we've recorded a show. So if you want to give the folks a quick story, a quick background on your introduction to gaming.
I'll do a quick background, then I'll make it relevant to today. So I'm the youngest of four. So there, when I was just born, there was always game consoles there. I grew up with an NES and a Sega Genesis, and then eventually Super Nintendo, which my aunt gave us for Christmas one year. The Legend of Zelda edition, if anyone remembers. But yeah, so that was just, gaming has always been a part of me and what I've done, and some of my brothers and I enjoy. When it comes to GTA Vice City, that was the first game that we got the Christmas we got our PlayStation 2. It was that's what we wanted it for, because we've always loved 80s stuff. Like, just growing up, my mom had a lot of 80s records, and Back to the Future was one of our favorite movies growing up. Those kind of things, very much 80s lexicon and all that. So Vice City was like one of those games that my brothers and we all just obsessed over. And then when we got the system, that's all we played until we got Metal Gear Solid 2 eventually. And then even still, we always would come back to this game. So
that's awesome.
It's a big
Very
one.
cool.
Yeah.
Yaiser, do you remember what your first PS2 game was?
Oh God, my brother got a PS2. He bought it himself, so he had it upstairs in his room. But the first one I played, it was either GTA 3 or like Final Fantasy 10, probably one of those two.
Gotcha.
Final Fantasy 10 was the first PS2 game I bought with my own money, because I was excited about that. I remember I went to GameStop and they were like, the used one's $5 cheaper. I'm like, no, I want the new one. Like, for some reason, I had to have it sealed. I don't know.
We would do that all the time as kids. It like made no sense. Like now I'm like, yeah, I don't care. I'll take a used one. Is it $10?
Disc only? I don't care, as long as I can play the game.
Yeah.
It's so funny, like how as a kid I cared about that. Like, it wasn't even really my money half the time. So obviously it's probably why. It's like, whatever. Yeah, no, I want the expense. Give me the new one. I'm not playing somebody's old junk.
That's funny.
Yeah, my first PS2 game, since we're on the topic, was actually Gran Turismo 3, and I think you had talked about it, DMC, where you had said that you had no memory card, and so that's how you got so good at Vice City, where you just kept playing it over and over and over again. We had to do the same thing with Gran Turismo 3, where we just kept doing the same 5 races over and over again. And it wasn't until my buddy let me borrow Onimusha, which you would just beat, I think, earlier this year or late last year.
It was, I think, over summer last year.
Yeah. And so it wasn't until my buddy let me borrow that, and my mom started playing it, and then she was like, okay, we need a memory card. And I'm like, oh, now we need a memory card. Mom. I've been playing the same 5 races in Gran Turismo for 3 weeks.
Funny.
Like, it's crazy.
So what we would do generally after Christmas was that, like, maybe the week after, I think my dad would get a couple days off from work. And we would always go to the mall with, Christmas money that we had. My grandma, for some reason, would always get us a gift card to the mall. I don't know if that was a thing that, like, actually it was a gift certificate. It was paper. So it was good at any of the store locations. But so I was like, oh man, like, we need a memory card. Please take us. And then he did. And the store I got mine from was the Wizards of the Coast store. Like, they actually had us. They had one of them specifically in the mall.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was wild. And that store became so many different things, or at least the Wizards of the Coast store eventually did. Like, they started selling custom computers for a while and all that. But anyway, I just remember feeling so much smarter than my brothers, because they bought the memory card from GameStop for, I think it was like $35 or something back in the day. Jesus. And Wizards, for some reason, was selling them for $15. And I was like, yes. So they were out of money, and I still had like $20 to go. So
that's funny. I was about to ask you if you remembered how much memory cards were back in the day, because I know like controllers were still pretty expensive back then, like $50 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a couple behind me that were only 20. Like, the price tag on them is $19.99. So
the controllers.
Yeah, those PS2 ones right there. That one of them's got a Best Buy at $20 on it. So
I think maybe
I think they were pretty cheap until
like...
they went up to the PlayStation 3 360 era, when they were wireless. That's when controllers, I think, really started.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I think I remembered like the N64 ones being like $39.99 or something like that for all like the different colors.
Maybe, probably, because I know they sold the hardware pretty cheap, like pretty quick. So
I could see Nintendo spiking those up because they're fancy colors.
Yeah.
All right.
I had the Wavebird for the GameCube. That thing had to be.
That was $69.99. I think that was really expensive when it came out. Yeah.
That was like unheard of technology at the time, though. Like, that was wild. I remember my buddy had one of those, and he wouldn't let anybody else use it. We're all playing
It
Smash
was.
Bros. And he's like, no, this is my controller. Nobody else is using this one.
That's funny.
I'm like, I legit don't blame you, bro. That's crazy. All right, so let's move on here. This week we played, well, not this week, this month. We played not Gran Turismo. Jesus. We played Grand Theft Auto Vice City for the PS2/Xbox/ Yaiser. You ended up playing it on your phone most of the time, right?
Yeah, dude. The whatever the Netflix thing they got going. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did a lot of that too. You hooked up with your Razer Kishi, right?
I did. Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I played a lot of it with the touchscreen, and it actually wasn't that bad. We'll get into that though. I'm not gonna talk about the controls. Like that's not gonna factor into my controls like rating or anything like that. But all right. Around the table real quick. DMC, did you beat the game? How many hours did you play?
I beat the game on the PlayStation 2, and I got about halfway done on the Xbox version. And total hours are probably 15 to 20, if not more. Yep.
Okay.
Nice.
Very cool. Now, when you say you beat the game, so obviously you did the very last mission, right? And then did you do any side stuff on the PS2 version, or
a little bit here and there? Like I love doing the what's the police ones, the vigilante missions. I love doing those.
Yep,
but like I didn't bother doing the taxi missions or the first aid or anything like that. And then
Gotcha.
I did the shortest way to beat the game technically, where I didn't buy the Malibu Club. So like that cuts out four. Yeah, you don't have to. But that cuts out probably 4 of the best missions. But I ran those so much when I was a kid. I'm like, I'm gonna try a different way and see how that goes. So
yeah, I believe you only have to buy 6 locations, right, to be able to finish it.
You only need to get 6 locations finished. So you can buy them all. Well, you can buy them all if you want to, but you need to get 6 of them to the point where it's generating revenue. Once that happens, then it's considered done.
Right.
So
Got you.
Makes sense.
the only one you have to buy is the printer press, because that's part of the last mission.
Yeah, I was gonna say the printer one. Yaiser, what about you? Did you beat the game? How many hours did you play?
I didn't beat it. I probably played maybe 10 hours, maybe 12. I completed 2 of the I don't know what the businesses, I guess, to completion.
The properties.
Yeah, the properties. I did the printing place in the harbor, the boat harbor.
Oh man,
okay,
good on you. I hated that.
Yeah, that was fucking hard to control that big ass boat. But I really was gonna try to beat it today, but I couldn't find my fucking controller.
Oh no!
You know, I know exactly where I put it, and it just wasn't there. You know how sometimes your wife or girlfriend will do that to you.
Yeah. My wife or girlfriend tells me that that happens to me all the time.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
I still don't know where the fuck she put it.
It's a pretty common thing, I think, amongst men to just completely misplace something and blame their significant other for it. I don't know. I mean, it happens to me all the time.
Not what's happening, but something like that happened.
Yeah. All right. As for me, I did not beat the game. I played probably about the same, maybe if not a little bit more than Yaiser, because I streamed it probably for like 6 hours total, 6 or 7 hours, something like that. And then I probably put another 10 or something like that into my phone. I also played the Netflix Definitive Edition, which the Definitive Edition looks way better than the PS2 version. They definitely upgraded the graphics on it. So I'm just going to get a couple of those differences out of the way now. They also, you can just restart the mission as soon as you die. Like if you die or you fail the mission, it just says you want to restart, and it's just like you don't have to like die and then get into the cab and then get brought back to the, you know what I mean? It just restarts, which is nice.
You quality of life stuff right there. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a nice addition to it. And unfortunately, there are a lot of like, not a lot, but there's probably like 10 songs missing, which we'll get into like the soundtrack and stuff like that and how there's absolute bangers on this game. But there's about 10 or so songs missing because of the license, I guess, ran out on those songs. You got a floating cat behind you. That's crazy. That's too funny. But yeah, so you know,
I don't know how he got in here.
I didn't beat it, but I will say that mission Copland, dude, F that mission, man. I was stuck on that mission. I'm still stuck on that mission. If I pull my game up right now, that cutscene's going to come up because I've been stuck on that mission for that long. I probably tried that mission like 30 times. I can't beat it. I just can't. I feel like it's never of my own fault either. It's just Lance, dude. Lance is just awful. Like he just takes forever. I don't know what he's doing, dude. He's just like taking his time, walking through the mall with all the police shooting at us. And then I'm like, Lance, come on, let's go. I can't take out all 50 of them. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to die. And then we get out of the mall and then he like takes so long to get in the car that all the FBI people and everybody just ran my car, and now my car is gonna get on fire, and I'm like, Lance, we gotta get out of the car. And then he gets out, gets back in, and then the car blows up, everybody dies. It sucks. It's terrible. I hate it. It's the worst mission of any game I think I've ever played, and I know that I've beaten it before, like when I was a kid. I just, for whatever reason, today, this week, this month, it wasn't happening. I couldn't do it.
Funny. That one's definitely one of the harder ones that I remember. The couple hard ones that when I was a kid, Copland was one of them. Yeah. And I think the way I cheesed it this time was that I stole the Miami Vice car, and I got us inside of that, and then I just took it right to a pay and spray or something like that, and then that was it. Like it was over. Plus, there's like 3 of the police bribes really close to there. So if you that's something I want to talk about with the gameplay. But if you know where a lot of like the bonus items are and stuff like that, the game gets super easy.
Yeah, there's a police bribe right behind the mall, so you could jump over the railing, whatever, get the bribe. And I did that, but like 5-star to 4-star doesn't make that big of a difference in terms of how bad they want to kill me.
At least, so there's that.
Yeah, dude, I couldn't make it like a block away from the mall. Like they would just destroy my car, and I couldn't run from them. Like it was awful. I don't know. I watched a how to beat the mission for 5-year-olds on YouTube, and I was just like, oh, they made it look so simple. They literally ran out of the mall, got in a car, and just drove away. And I'm like, I don't know what.
I think it's one of those things where if you overthink it, it actually makes it way harder. Where if you just get in a car and drive like through Prawn Island or something, that also works pretty easy. So
well, maybe I'll try it again or never play the game again. We'll see. All right.
Or you know what you do, dude? You know what it is? The secret? Put in the one of the cheat.
There it is. Yeah.
Well, I was talking to Yaiser about it a few days ago because literally I've been stuck on it that long, and he was like, "Oh, dude, just cheat." And I'm like, "No, I'm trying not to cheat." You know?
I almost did, but I didn't through my playthroughs. I thought I memorized it too, and I looked at the cheat code, and I was like 2 things off. So I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, my early memories of Grand Theft Auto 3 is just I can still remember some of those fucking cheat codes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Awesome. All right, let's get into the story. Obviously, being the only one that complete the game, and obviously you have such a vast knowledge on the game, I would say. DMC, why don't you kick us off for story here? What did you rate it? What do you think of it? You don't have to recap the whole story or anything.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, the story, if you want to do a quick overview, is that you play as Tommy Vercetti, who gets cast out by his family. They get him out of jail pretty much to use him as bait, and then you have to try and work your way up after the mission goes awry, and go through it. It's Scarface, baby. But yeah, I mean, the story is fun, and with what it's lampooning, like, of course, it's got enough. But at the same time, too, like playing it now, I'm like, damn, like Grand Theft Auto's really come a long way. Like the story in the other ones were just like GTA 5 story. I really, really liked. It's not fair to compare it, but just when you're looking at least as far as the way that it's gone. But anyway, I guess you could say as far as rating the story, I'd still give it like a 4 because it's still fun to be a dude working your way up the crime syndicate, and you overthrow Diaz and you start buying up property, and you really feel like you kind of take over the town and stuff like that. So that's fun. I just think that it ends very abruptly. Like when you're playing it, you do those 6 missions to get the money revenue, and then it's like, hey, Sonny's here, he's trying to steal our money, let's kill him. Like it's just like, oh shit, like you go like from cruising to all of a sudden it's the end of the game. So
yeah. It is funny how that kind of works, where Sonny's just like, hey, we need your money, and then you're like, no, I'm not gonna give it to you, and then he comes and you're just like, okay, I'll just kill him then. And then
you fake out. That's why you buy the printing press, is because like you give him fake money, like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool, but then Lance sells you out and all that kind of stuff. Spoilers, that's by the way for a 22-year-old game. But
I work with a kid like younger than this game.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
That is crazy. Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, as far as, and one last thing I'd say that would really impact the story would be obviously the characters. I mean, there's just, the cast is awesome. The characters are definitely fun and goofy and silly. There's some jokes, I guess you could say, that's like, okay, that's early 2000s humor. That's kind of like, it's not really funny anymore and things like that. But it's still, I mean, the cast is incredible. In 2002, you didn't have a game like this except for Grand Theft Auto, where it had actual star power, you know, where there was, it wasn't just, you know, maybe a washed up actor that was using their face. You had people who were in their prime still. So,
right. Yeah, no, it's, I think the story really, where it gets me like so interested is exactly where you said, where you know, you take over Diaz's, you know, mansion, and then you start buying up all the properties and take over the town. And that's always been my favorite part of the game. Like, getting to that part is always like the mission, right? Get to that part, and then you can start having some real fun, like in story. I gave the story a 4, because I do feel like, you know, it does end abruptly. I don't feel like that there's no like crazy like character development or anything like that. Anything like that. You know what I mean? There's like the little bit of like backstabbing and stuff, which is kind of fun. But other than that, it's a dude. He gets out of prison. He's selling drugs, and he just does crime, and that's his thing, right? Yeah. So there's not much more to it than that, really. But
cars do crime.
But I also wanted to kind of throw like the radio into the story a little bit with like live talk and like the live talk radio and stuff like that. Even like some of the ads are so funny and just like out there. Like I had to throw that stuff in there too. Yeah. Just because it kind of built that like real world like feeling driving around your car hearing like these ridiculous radio ads.
Right.
So yeah, I just wanted to throw that into the story a little bit. I felt like that bumped it up a little bit for me. But yeah, I landed on a 4. What about you, Yaiser?
I went higher than you guys. I went 4 or 5.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, for like, it just felt like such a like an immersive kind of a world, especially for that time. There, like you said, there's nothing like this. I mean, other than I guess GTA 3, but even this game was a step above that game, I think, personally. But yeah, man, I love being in fucking Miami in the 80s. The cocaine, the guns, the fucking dude. I love like all these like movies, documentaries about like that era, and that I fucking love that shit. If I think I probably would have been dead if I lived in that era, in that area. You know what I mean? I would have tried to been in that shit too. But
that's funny.
I don't know if I would have made it out, but we would have had fun, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, dude, I fucking love this game. I really do.
All right. So is it we're good, right, on the story?
I mean, I'd say I'm trying to think of something. I had input on it. I completely spaced now. Oh, cut this out. There was something I was going to bring up. Something that I did like was the cell phone conversations. That was another part of the story as far as like, world building was nice. It was just, you know, that was kind of the beginning. I think I don't remember if GTA 3 had that. It might have. I'll be completely honest when it comes to Grand Theft Autos. Since I played this one first, I've never been able to get into GTA 3 because there's things that Vice City has that GTA 3 doesn't, as far as just like the controls and the way the world building goes, that I don't like it. But yeah, so as far as like the cell phone conversations go and stuff like that, and like Lance's paranoia that starts setting in, and that's why he sells you out. Like you can see it coming from a mile away that he's going to betray you. Like the first phone call where he's basically like, Tommy, you need to give me some, you know, give me a piece of the pie or whatever he says. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, I know what's going to happen here. But and
Tommy's just telling him to chill out.
Exactly.
Yep.
But that's, like you said too, that's also part of what like doesn't make the story be so impactful for me. Like, because I'm including just the characters in this, because all the characters are just so unique and fun. Although they're also stereotypical in the same sense. But anyway, but yeah, so that's where I'd say as far as the actual like story goes, it's fine. It's, you know, is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a quick shout out. Who I like? Ironically enough, this person came out with this video 6 days ago. But The Patient Wolf on YouTube does a fantastic overview of the entire story of Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So if you guys wanted to go check that out, it's about a 40-minute video or so. Just throw it on, listen to it.
Cool.
He explains every single cutscene, what you have to do in the missions, why it makes sense to the story, and he even throws in like actual audio and the cutscenes and stuff like that. It's a really, really well done video. So just wanted to give him a little shout out there.
Nice. Check it out.
All right, moving over to gameplay. Yaiser, you want to kick it off?
Sure. This game is obviously super fun, right? There's certain aspects of the game that play a little better than others. I love the physics of driving. It feels pretty solid. I mean, some of the cars are a little cartoonish with how well they fucking handle. Like the Cheetah can just bang 90-degree turns at 100 miles.
Unfair, yeah.
But that's my favorite car to drive. But I like how every single car like feels a little different, you know, and that's cool. My problem, like hand-to-hand combat, is a little sloppy to me sometimes.
Very sloppy.
Jumping is a little sloppy. I hate not being able to swim. Was pretty fucking annoying.
That was something that I completely forgot. Like I just jumped in the water and I was just like, oh, I die in this one. That's crazy. I forgot.
Yeah. It's
can you swim in San Andreas, or is not until
that's the first game they introduced it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I thought this is the one where they introduced flying, but I guess only RC flying.
Technically, yes, you do fly later on in the game. If you buy the adult film studio, you get the Skipper, which is a seaplane.
Oh, fuck, I didn't buy it.
You gotta buy it.
That's cool.
Just
though.
like everybody bought that as a kid. Everybody was like, what?
I didn't get that.
And then the cutscenes play when your family's walking through and you're like, whoa.
yeah, exactly.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I still think it's pretty solid overall. I'm gonna go 4 on this. 4.
Okay. I actually thought you were going to go way higher on this one. To be honest, I thought you might be hovering around the 5 area, which I came in a little bit higher than you, which I'm surprised because I thought that, like I said, I thought you were going to be around the 5, but I came in at a 4.25. My biggest gripe with the game is character control. I love the way the cars control, although, so DMC, I was talking to you about it in your chat. And I was saying that the cars felt realistic. What I meant by that was not that like the actual driving felt realistic, but that it felt realistic in the sense that every car felt different.
Like very different.
Like I felt like the vans really felt like top heavy. Like when you went to go turn them, like when you went for a turn, you'd have to slow down a lot, otherwise you were gonna tip in the vans, right?
Right.
Or you know what I mean? I can't remember what the name of the car is, like the Washingtons or whatever, like the longer ones.
Big boats, yeah.
Yeah, they really felt heavy when you were driving them. You know what I mean? Like the Ballista Compacts felt very, very light, like you would think like a Civic would feel. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I felt like they felt realistic in that sense, but still like the handling was cartoonish and arcadish.
Yeah. I agree with that.
But yeah, I just meant that they felt realistic in terms of every car felt different. Even with like the bigger like rigs or the tanks or whatever, it took forever to get those things going. You know what I mean? It wasn't just
once
like
you got them going though, you were fucking ramming through everything.
Yeah, you weren't stopping. But yeah, as far as actual gameplay goes, I think even like something as simple as the shooting, which I felt like, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but if I felt like it was figured out by this point, and I felt like Rockstar has always been a little sloppy in the combat area of their games. But even something as shooting and locking on just seemed like such a chore to try and get it down. Like I can't remember the exact buttons now, whether it's R1 to lock on or L1 to switch or vice versa.
I believe that's right for PlayStation 2. I'm on the Xbox mindset now, so
right. So you only have one trigger back there, right?
Yeah. So I've got words for that. So
okay,
I'll wait till my turn.
Yeah. So as far as like that goes, I just felt like they could have done something where even while I was locking on, it felt like the camera was still kind of all over the place and I couldn't see who I was like even locked onto at some points. I'm like, I don't want to lock onto the guy way over there. I want to lock onto the guy that's shooting me in the face 2 feet in front of me. So I felt like a lot of that was super annoying. It made missions way harder than they needed to be. But all that being said, this game was still incredibly fun. I could not put it down. Once I got used to controlling the cars and the scooters and the bikes and stuff like that, I was having so much fun whipping around in traffic and stuff like that. The world that they create is what makes the game so great, in my opinion. The vastness of like just stuff you can do, right? If you beat the game, you do all, I think there's like 59 like mainline story missions or something like that.
I think so, yeah.
If you beat all those missions, there's still so much to do. One of my favorite things to do in this game has nothing to do with the missions really, and it's just you just have to collect cars. Like it's gone in 60 seconds. I absolutely love that part when you buy Sunshine Auto and you can go, you look it down at the list and you're like, okay, I have to find these cars. And it was so funny. DMC was watching me play that live on Twitch. Go follow. And if he was like, oh, I wonder if he's like, I feel like I only see this car when I'm in that car. And so I look it up, and sure enough, you have to be driving specific cars to kind of trigger other cars to, generate, which I thought was weird and interesting. But you know what I mean? That's just another fun part of the game. And like I said, you can do all those different types of missions. You can do the police missions, the ambulance missions, the taxi cab drive. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things that you can do. This game is like at the time, right? Like $60 or $50 or whatever you're paying. This game gives you way more than your money's worth for this. You know what I mean? So I just felt like the way gameplay goes, like it gives you so much. But I couldn't give it like a 5 or a 4.5 because I could not get past how awful it was. Just normal combat. I ended up preferring to kill people with my car, honestly.
Wow.
I'm just trying to run people over because DMC, what about you, buddy?
All right, so this is where it gets tricky. So I am gonna split it sometimes when we're talking about Xbox versus PlayStation 2 because I did play it on real hardware, and there's definitely differences between the two. The biggest hit that PlayStation 2 gets as far as gameplay goes, which could also go into visuals, is that the frame rate on it drops sometimes to unplayable. Like it's got to be single digits, if not 12 or 13, pretty frequently too. So there's times where you're driving, all of a sudden it just takes an absolute dump, and it's just you can't control in time, you can't respond in time, and things like that. But on the plus side for it is that the game was designed for the PlayStation 2, so you've got 2 extra shoulder buttons and things like that. So it's way better as far as shooting while you're driving, which actually had me questioning. I was going to pop in Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5 to see if it's still the right analog stick like it is on the Xbox, or if it is L2, R2, and all that to shoot. But as far as overall gameplay goes, I'd give them both a 4, but for different reasons. The Xbox controls way better as far as the frame rate. It's like always above 30, and it's basically a computer, so it's a bit better than the PS2. But then there's also parts, like I said, the shooting isn't as good. Flying the helicopter isn't as good on the Xbox. And a silly one, the tank, if you steal that in PlayStation 2 version, you can turn the actual like cannon. If you turn it in the Xbox, the camera follows wherever it's pointing. So if you want to turn it behind you to like blast things away behind you, the camera just goes behind you, and then you start driving in a circle. Because it's the worst. It makes it unusable. So I was like, cool, all right. Because usually I steal the tank, fail the mission, but keep the tank, and then do the mission again. But anyway, but yeah, the driving is obviously the best part and what they focused on the most. So the driving of all the sports cars is great. What I love about this compared to Grand Theft Auto 3 and 4, I don't know about 5 really, but 4. They give you the best cars right off the bat. You get the Cheetah, you get the Infernus, you get the PCJ 600. They just say, screw it, here's the best cars. And it's kind of the opposite of what a lot of the other Grand Theft Autos do. You start off in the nice area. You don't start off in like the slummy areas or anything like that. You start off on the strip, and here's all the money, and here's all that. Here's the excess where, here's the fast ass cars, and go to town, have fun, which I think I think for this it really works, and maybe for the later games, okay, I get why they don't do that. But that's another reason why I can never get into Grand Theft Auto 3, because it's like, all right, here's all the slow ass buffaloes and things like that. It's like, oh my god, I want to drive a race car, and like getting the Cheetah in that is like you have to like steal it from like a car dealership and all that. And it's like a 3-star.
Yeah, you can get the Banshee from the car.
The Banshee, that's what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it's right by like the mafia. It's like right down the street from like where the mafia is. Yeah.
Yep.
So funny how I still remember that though.
Yeah, right. Well, it's because it's like I want the good car. But so yeah, that's the fun thing. And actually, if you look right now in the footage, you'll see that I'm doing the mission where you follow the guy to the hideout. I found it best to use like a golf cart for that, because you're nimble enough to be able to have all 4 wheels. If you get shot one out, you can keep moving, But that's where the gameplay also shines in this, is that it's almost like they knew like, hey, here's the way we're going to suggest you to play the game, but they do encourage you to break it. They're like, you don't have to do all the missions the way they want you to do them. I was telling Rigney that I'm a big fan of using the helicopter for a lot of the missions, because it makes it just go by way faster. And you can traverse faster and all that. But also, like I said, too, that mission where you're supposed to steal the tank, I believe it's Sir Yes Sir or something like that. You can steal it. And if you own the property in the northern third island, you can actually park the tank inside of the garage there, wait for it to detonate, but keep it open, and then close the garage, open it back up, and it's fixed. And then you have a tank for whatever you want it. And you can do vigilante missions, I'm pretty sure, while you're driving it. Nice. So it's like, all right, cool. So instead of using just the shitty police car, you have a tank, and it's easy to get to level 12, where then you get the 50 extra bonus armor points.
What's crazy is like you saying that now, I'm like, I definitely did that as a kid, but I had no recollection of doing that for the month that I've been playing the game. You're saying it now, and I'm like, oh yeah.
So it's the fun moments like that that definitely, you know, make the game pop and are fun. Like another mission is where you're supposed to get the the candy sucks lights that go on the side of the tower. They're like, hey, you're supposed to steal a motorcycle, and you have that moment where you're like, you know, you drive the motorcycle out through the glass and all that. I park a helicopter below it because that mission's a pain in the ass, and I just take a helicopter and I land on each of the things for immediately, and then I just get the target that way, so then I don't have to, because it's not that fun of a mission. And another one actually that's related to her is that like you're supposed to do the camera, like to take the pictures of her meeting with a shrub, not bush, but shrub, which is a good bit. And actually, I kept dying on that one. I was like, shit, like what can I do? So I stole a helicopter, and instead of going to where they wanted me to go to take the pictures, I went to the building next to it, parked on top, and I still could take the pictures there. And then I just got in a helicopter and flew away. And I'm like, this is great though. Like, here's the suggestion, but you can do what you want as long as you get the mission done. So like, those moments really are where this game shines, and really Grand Theft Auto in general. That's the open world feeling that they're going for. So, and it rewards you with your patience too.
Yeah, and I felt like they achieved open world status with GTA 3, but they pretty much perfected it with Vice City, in my opinion.
I disagree with that part, but I think that they took a step forward, and we'll get to that when we get to the retro section, but or the Reliving Retro, or whatever you want to call it. But
how well it aged?
Yeah, there it is. The age. I'm spacing. Yeah. But but yeah, so there's those moments where it's definitely just like, okay, cool, we're getting there, and you can do it the way you want to and stuff like that. And that's just the fun of it. So like you and I, that mission that we were talking about, the one where Lance is held up at the base, I'm like, you got to use a helicopter. That's the easiest way. And you're like, no, I'll just use a car. That's the fun thing too, is because your experience might be different than mine based on that. So
it's so funny because like the way you're saying it, and I feel like I do this all the time with everything in my life. You're like, oh, just do this. This is easy. I'm like, yeah, but then I got to figure out how to get a helicopter, and I got to figure out like how to drive one. I was just like, I'll just keep doing this same thing that I've been doing 30 times over and over again. It's sure to work once, right?
Yeah.
And then it did. It worked eventually.
See, you didn't need to use a helicopter.
No, what an idiot, though. I wasted like 3 hours of my life.
And I realize now I've talked gameplay I'm so sorry, but I never talked about the gunplay. Yeah, I agree as far as the hand-to-hand is awful. I will use it absolutely last resort. It's the worst. I would rather use a car. And the targeting, like you said, is kind of a mess. But the worst part for sure is the rifles. They are god-awful.
Oh,
they're so really sensitive. They zoom across the screen no matter what you do.
Anything that's like first person.
Yeah.
So bad.
I even felt like that. Like, okay, but the what is it? The SCAR or whatever is just a nightmare in the M16.
Awful, dude. I'll never use them. I'll always just switch to whatever the like the submachine gun.
Yep,
my favorite gun in the game. Because
that and the Python.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the Python is.
That's the revolver. Cool. It's pretty much a one-hit kill for everyone. So.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That's dope. Yeah, I don't think I got that. I did want to say, because you mentioned the shrub in the bush kind of joke. Kaufman cabs. That's got to be a nod to Andy Kaufman.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Because I was always like, that's got to be what that means.
Yep.
But I think stuff like that is really cool that they throw into the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. If we're good on gameplay, we can move over to visuals. I'll kick it off with visuals here. This was by far my lowest score of the 5. I gave it a 3. And my biggest reason is for what DMC had mentioned earlier. I played it on the PS2 primarily, and the frame rate does drop to almost unplayable levels at certain points. And I thought maybe it was emulation, but when Real Hardware guy says that it drops, it drops. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So if it's dropping for him, it's dropping for me. Like, so I actually had it at 3.5 until you brought that up, and I'm like, okay, I wasn't gonna kill it too much because I thought it might have been the emulation, but no, I guess it happens on the Real Hardware too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But the visuals, I just feel like, so I don't know. I feel kind of weird about it because I love all the looks of the cars. The GTA character models always bother me because there's like almost no detail in any of the characters whatsoever. Like, I don't think Tommy even really has a face in like the PS2 version.
No,
Especially in the
dude.
PS2 version, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. The hands are just blocks. Like they just look like sticks with blocks on the end. Yeah, you can't even exactly. There's no separation of fingers or whatever. You know what I mean? It looks like all the. It really looks like all the characters have casts on.
That's
the
a good way of
entire
looking
game.
at it.
Yeah.
So yeah, but then again, the environment I thought was cool. Like just it really captures like Miami, right? Like I mean, I've never been to Miami, but from what I see of Miami in videos, and yeah, it really seems like that's where you're at. And I actually think that's probably why they give you all the fast cars and stuff, because it's like that more fits the environment, right? Like GTA 3 is like supposed to be New York City, and you're probably not seeing all those crazy cars in New York City like on the regular, right? And then you go to like Miami, you're probably seeing those cars every 4 seconds.
Yeah.
So I feel like that probably they did that because of like the environment too. But yeah, I don't know. I just landed on a 3 because there's so much ugly in the game that it's hard to even get past how cool some of the other stuff that they do is.
I agree.
What about you, Yaiser?
I have 2 scores.
Okay, I don't know. I think this might be a first.
I have 2 scores too, so I like it.
So
how do you guys do this?
All right. So originally, I played this. I started playing this a while ago, emulating the PS2 version. And like you said, it looks like shit. Tommy doesn't even fucking have a face. So I'm giving that one. I gave it a 3.5 because the colors are nice, the cars look cool, and like the world, it looks nice. But like the Netflix mobile version, dude.
Yeah, the definitive edition. Yep.
It looks so goddamn good.
It does look really good.
Fucking blew me. I thought I was playing like a whole new game. Tommy, never knew. I thought he was like an old guy. Now he's got a face. He's like this young-ish looking guy. His nice beard, dude. He's a handsome man. But yeah, dude, I'm giving the Netflix version a 4.5, dude. Honestly, it looks that much better.
It does look a lot better. DMC.
So I don't know which one you want to take.
I put them both down, and I'm not going to count either one of them.
Okay.
So what I would say as far as my scores go is, unless I deviate, then the Xbox and the PlayStation 2 one get the same score. So like story and it will be the same, and audio might be different for Xbox, and I'll tell you why when we get there. But anyway, as far as visuals go here, the PlayStation 2 version, I actually always thought looked kind of ass, even when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking with like a 2.75 on that one. But I understand that they had to make so many assets for this game. So like that's part of the reason why it stepped down. I always would tell my brothers, I'm like, okay, like clearly they couldn't do Metal Gear Solid graphics on here because they have so much shit they have to do. But still, it doesn't excuse a lot of the stuff that even back then looked bad. Like just the car, like the interiors of some of the buildings you go into looks bad. Car interiors, if you notice them, most of them look terrible. Like it's just one stretch texture, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then, like you said, there's really not a lot of defining features on a lot of characters' faces. The director at the porn studio has like the best like model altogether, in my opinion. Like they really put a lot of effort into his face and like his animation. It also helps the actors really good, but like that one I felt like was like, wow, that's a surprising amount of character there. But like, you know, like you said too, Tommy is just like, this guy looks just like any dude. There's that picture when it's loading in where it's a guy like in a pink suit that's just kind of like staring. That's Tommy. That's supposed to be him. And it's like, what? That doesn't look like him at all. What are you talking about? So, and I actually remember when I was younger, I'm like, who the hell is this guy supposed to be? And I think it's in the manual where it's like, oh, that's supposed to be Tommy Vercetti. And I'm like, oh, that's not at all what I get out of that. No. So the one thing that works is they do have the facial animations down a lot. Like the mocap is good, and their faces do like, you know, scrunch up and things like that while they're getting upset and surprised and all that. So I give it that. But when you play the Xbox version, which I would give a full point up, 3.75, cars look a lot better. They actually have details on the rims. The character models look better. The textures, they're higher. There's actual textures and things like that. Overall, it just is a better visual experience. And the frame rate rarely dipped for me on that one. But like cars have more reflections on the Xbox version. And it's just there's just more life in it altogether. And if you ever really get a chance to play the PC version that was released originally, then you can see what this game could look like at its best. But that's just not fair to really bring that up. So
yeah, So I was gonna take the PC version into consideration, but I was like,
Mhm.
I feel like I should really just grade like what I played. I played on the PS2.
Right.
I guess I could look at the Xbox version, but I was just like, I feel like bringing up the PC version is like that game came out later.
I think so. Yeah, a year or two. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not the version that most people would like think of when they think of
Mhm.
this game, right? They're thinking of PS2 or Xbox probably.
Yeah, we only got the PC version probably in 2006 or 7 because my brother's like, dude, there's an Iron Man mod or something like that, so that's why we got it.
That's funny. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with what you both said, especially about the just the lack of character design in the main character. You would think that that's the only one that has the most character design, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you were saying, DMC, that the porn character had like the most.
Yeah, the
like,
director of like he's only in 3
director,
missions.
yeah.
It's like, come on.
Yeah.
I was like, don't make it sound like I'm ogling candy over there. All right, I'm talking about the director here.
That's so funny. All right, so let's move on to sound. All right, DMC, I feel like you should kick off sound because you had mentioned that there's a difference for you between PS2 and Xbox, and I got to hear what that is.
So really, I mean, this is probably being easy for all of us to say. It's got to be 4.75 to 5. You've got an amazing cast of characters as far as actors go. I'm trying to, like, I had a lot of the actors memorized.
I have a list if you want me to just read them off.
Danny Trejo, right? Did I hear Danny Trejo in there?
Yep.
And that other Mexican dude whose name I can never remember. Something
Luis Guzman.
Yep.
Oh, Guzman. Yeah, there you go.
I don't know how to say his name. But yeah, Ray Liotta plays Tommy Vercetti.
That's Ray Liotta?
Yeah.
Damn.
Which is huge, you know.
That is huge.
Ray Liotta was only
man.
a few years removed from some of the big movies, so.
Wow.
Yeah. William Fichtner plays Ken Rosenberg.
Mm-hmm. Which he plays him in Grand Theft Auto 4 or 5, I believe, too.
Yeah. Dennis Hopper plays Steve Scott.
That's Dennis Hopper. Yep.
Burt Reynolds plays Avery Carrington.
Which he does a great job. Avery is actually my favorite character in the entire game.
He is also my favorite character.
He's so funny.
He's so funny. Yeah. I was going to ask you about
the
that.
ropes and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I was gonna ask you guys about that during a story, but then it just slipped my mind who your favorite characters were. But yeah, Carrington is definitely my favorite too.
He's the best.
But yeah, we have a ton of people. Danny Trejo, like you were saying, Gary Busey's in it. He plays Phil Cassidy. Lee Majors.
He's the perfect Phil Cassidy.
Lee Majors plays Mitch Baker.
Mm-hmm.
We got, who else we got here? We got Jenna Jameson as Candy Sucks, and we have Lawrence Taylor as BJ Smith. I mean, they went all out. Wow. They have tons of
getting LT in there to play the running back. And if you listen, he has an interview in there. And he has a commercial, which is one of the funniest commercials in the game, where it's something along the lines of like, for 10 years I was in the NFL as a running back where I was ground down, beaten down, and taken advantage of. And you can too with my new book. And it's just like, what a good bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really funny. The writing in this game is so good.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when it comes to that's why I had to include that into the story, because I felt like all those ads and stuff, they're so funny. Like people legit, they spent a long time to like, write out those ads. So I had to include them. And
it really helps the world building. So I guess, to put a score on it, I'd put a 5 on it for both of them, honestly, because we haven't even talked about the music yet. But the only thing that I'd say that pushes Xbox a little bit higher is that you could add your own soundtrack to it, which is super cool.
Oh,
you copy your discs
dude, Xbox was sick like that, man.
Yeah. So that's just a point to it. But at the same time, like, do you necessarily want to listen to it? I thought it was nice for someone who's played the game so much that it's like, okay, I pretty much know VCPR and KCHAP by heart. Like I can listen to something a little different here and all that. But yeah, and then we can talk about the talk shows themselves too. Like you were mentioning, they're hilarious. Although some of them have aged a little poorly. It's like, okay, like that joke's a little off color. All right. Yeah. But there's still a lot of them that are just hilarious. I love the VCPR like co-hosts that come on that beg for money, and it's just like they're making fun of Marie Chavez the entire time. It's like, all right, let's get back to that asshole. He is an asshole, isn't he? And then he comes on and he's like, thanks guys, like, because he obviously wasn't listening to what they were saying, and it's great. Just all those little moments throughout there. And Pastor Richards is one of the funniest characters. There's just a bit in there that it's so good where Marie Chavez is like, Pastor Richards, what? He just responds like he wasn't listening until someone said his name. And it just gets me every single time, because it just like, I feel like you could see the actor just kind of like off in the distance and just, like when he gets called, it's perfect. So
it is really good. It's really good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
All right, Yaiser, what about you for sound?
Yeah, it's a 5, dude. Obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And what weighs into it more for you, Yaiser? Is it more like the music, or is it because this game has
it's definitely
great sound
both,
effects,
but I think it's more the voice acting.
Yeah,
for
the
sure.
voice acting is really good.
Yeah, it's just on point.
It's so funny because we come from like a generation where we grew up with terrible voice acting when it was introduced the generation prior with the PS1 N64 generation. I would say 90% of games that had voice acting in the PS1 games were terrible voice acting.
Oh yeah.
Pretty bad. But sometimes almost more entertaining because of that. It's just like, how bad can this voice acting get?
Resident Evil 1, baby.
It's pretty terrible. But yeah, I'm gonna piggyback off of both of you here. It's a 5.
Yeah.
Straight down the board. I mean, obviously, if the soundtrack isn't enough, which by the way, I asked both of you to prepare a top 5 songs from GTA Vice City. Before we get into that, though, I just want to say, I feel like my guy over here at DMC is kind of pooping all over the PS2 version. Did you know that there's a PS2 exclusive song on this?
Yes. God, what song is it too? I read about it. I read about it just the other day though. So I can't remember which one it was. It's is it Lionel Richie?
It is. It's Running with the Night by Lionel Richie.
Which is one of my favorite songs on the game. So, and the best part was I didn't even know that was Lionel Richie. I just would always listen to it when it was on because I'm like, man, this song has got that 80s vibe to it.
Yeah, so that's only on the PS2 version. I have no idea why, but that's the only one. And obviously with the definitive edition, you have some absolutely monster tracks that aren't included. Like you have the couple of Michael Jackson songs. They're not.
Bark at the Moon's gone.
Yeah, Bark at the Moon is not on the definitive edition.
Oh, that's horseshit. That's on my top 5. I didn't even notice that wasn't even on.
There you go.
Yeah, it's not on there. But yeah, so I mean, other than that, you have I mean, they retain most of them. I think there's if I'm not mistaken, there's 103 songs in the original versions. They don't play around. I can't even imagine how much the licensing was. Just
I wonder though, because
alone.
the 80s wasn't quite vogue in like the early aughts yet. Like it wasn't like it was the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's part of the reason they were able to. Plus Grand Theft Auto 3 was such a success. But like if you look at the audio quality as far as the soundtrack for Grand Theft Auto 3 to Vice City, it's night and day. Grand Theft Auto 3 soundtrack for the most part is pretty bad. Or, you know, I'm sure there's gonna be people who listen to be like, no, dude, it's got whatever, dude. I'm sorry. Okay. Maybe it's got 90s underground hits. I personally never got it.
I don't remember, honestly.
I don't remember a single song that's
I remember one station in Grand Theft Auto 3, and they blew their load too early because it's the entire soundtrack of Scarface in Grand Theft Auto 3. And they couldn't use that because it was licensed for 3. And that's why none of those songs are in Vice City.
Idiots.
So yeah, they were just a little too early on that one.
That's funny.
That's the only station I would listen to because just the rest of it was just like whatever, dude.
All right. So did you guys prepare your top 5 lists?
I've been looking at it over and over. So
I got 7, honestly.
You go first.
I made 10. I'll go with my 10.
Oh, you want to cut it short at 7.
You're the worst.
I told Yaiser, I was like, you got to stick to 5, man. He's like, what if I can't think of just 5? I'm like, you got to make 5. And then here I am with 10 because I'm an idiot. But I did rank them, to be fair. I just felt like there were some that I couldn't leave out. Right. So number 10, I have Slayer with Raining Blood. Number 9, I have Toto with Africa because obviously those two belong together.
Number 1.
Number 8, I have Ozzy Osbourne, Bark at the Moon. Number 7, I have Cutting Crew with Died in Your Arms. Number 6, I have The Outfield with Your Love. Number 5, I have 2 Minutes to Midnight with or from Iron Maiden. I realized I wrote that one backwards. Number 4, I have Corey Hart with Sunglasses at Night. Number 3, I have The Human League with Fascination. Love that song. I don't know why. That song just
I can't stand that song.
I'd have to hear it to know which one you're talking about.
The horns just drive me insane.
Dude, I don't know, man. That one gets in my head. It gets in my head and it just stays in there, and I'm not mad about it. Number 2, I have A Flock of Seagulls, I Ran.
Love it, dude. Love it.
Dude, when I think of 80s, I just think of that song. Just, I don't know what it is.
And Asia. I wish there was Asia on this.
And number 1, I feel like this is probably surprising to most everyone out there. Number 1 for me is Yes, Owner of a Lonely Heart.
Oh, it's so good.
Love that song.
So good.
Love it. I feel like DMC's list is going to be so different.
It's not going to be too crazy.
All right, Yaiser, top 7. What are they?
Keep on Loving You, REO Speedwagon.
Classic.
I
Hall &
considered that
Oates,
one.
Out of Touch.
Yep. That's a
So
good.
Foreigner. Come on. Waiting for a Girl Like You. Side note, they're nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this year, and if they don't get in, it's blasphemy. Sister Christian, Night Ranger. Come on, you left that off your list?
That was very close to making my list.
Then I got Flock of Seagulls, Bark at the Moon, in Africa.
Okay. Africa's your number 1, huh?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Such a good song.
All right, DMC, what do you got?
All right. So the thing is, I didn't put it in an order, so I'll give you what I've got here.
Okay.
I will say the one song that I would never ever skip though when I was playing this, even when I was a kid or now, would be "Come On Feel the Noise" by Quiet Riot. I love that song, so that's probably my number 1. Sister Christian up there for sure. No one here is mentioning anything from Fever though, so I got to give it to Rocket from Herbie Hancock. Because that's a classic. All right.
That's one that's not in the definitive edition, by the way.
Actually, I'm sorry. I think that's Wild Style. I apologize. But yeah, I think that's one that's also kicked out. Yep. Dangerous Bastard from Love Fist, because you got to give some of the original songs in there.
Dude.
A bop.
Nice.
So there's that. Dying in Your Arms, 2 Minutes to Midnight, obviously. Out of Touch by DJ Tony. That's a good one, if you remember that one.
Mm-hmm.
Then Sister Christian, and then I Want to Be Starting Something. Michael Jackson. You gotta throw that out.
Oh yeah, that almost made it.
I'm a little surprised nobody mentioned Peace Sells. I thought that was going to be on somebody's list.
I just think it's almost out of place for the entire game. And I love Megadeth. Like, I've got stuff signed by Dave Mustaine and things like that. But it's just like whenever I listen to it, I'm like, all the rest of the songs feel like same thing with Rain and Blood. I'm like, I'm the dude wearing the Municipal Waste shirt right now, and it's just like, I want the other 80s vibes.
I mentioned the reason why I mentioned Raining Blood is because I felt like in real life, Rigney would listen to Raining Blood more than probably any of these other songs, but it doesn't really fit the vibe of the game that much. So that's why I still snuck it into the top 10. But I did feel the same way about Megadeth. And I felt like Judas Priest was kind of right there, like kind of teetering that same line.
That's a good one for this game, though, for sure.
Yeah, but I did feel like it was like, is it too heavy? I think it's okay. I think it's all right.
But it's great because Laszlo's the one talking about it, and he's just an absolute poser. So it's just fun listening to talk about this stuff.
But yeah, man, this soundtrack is probably. I mean, this is Guitar Hero before Guitar Hero was a thing, really.
For real.
Put all of like the '80s best songs on there. It's pretty amazing. Even like going back and playing it, I did not remember how many just absolute bangers they put on this game.
Oh yeah,
I was super impressed. So yeah, obviously the soundtrack alone gets it a 5. The voice acting alone would get it a 5, and the sound effects I think are also all amazing. That would probably get it a 5 if it didn't have the other 2. So the fact that it has all 3 it's probably one of the best sounding games that we've played so far on the show.
I would agree. And I think what's just to give it a little bit more roses to the game is the sound design, like you mentioned, especially with the game that really focuses on vehicles.
Yep.
The sounds of different cars, the sounds of different vehicles in general. One of the my favorite little details is that if you're in the helicopter when you're flying forward, it's muffled and things, but if you look behind you, it's a completely different audio track. It's hearing a helicopter on the outside instead of being on the inside. I'm like, oh, that's such a good detail, like it really just adds a little bit more reality to this world. And we haven't even talked about the just random shit people say when you're on the street and stuff like that too, or the way that the cops don't make me run and stuff like that. It's good that there's just so much.
I will say though, I was so annoyed with what are you talking about, Mario or whoever? I don't know who Mario is, but why they?
He's making fun of an Italian. That's what it is. He's just calling him Mario. That's what it is.
Well, it's just, dude. Every group of dudes I walk past, it's all you hear.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very, very good though. It's probably the best, like I said, the best sounding game that we've listened to or that we've heard or played, whatever, so far for the show. And just 2 games ago, if you believe it or not, was Chrono Trigger, which also got all 5s. But this is just a different monster because of the time period.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, they could have phoned in any of these things as far as audio goes, and they didn't. That's, I think, the best thing that's really to point out. None of it feels phoned in for any of it. The collision sounds, any of that stuff just feels right.
It really felt like it really felt like graphics was a weird, like visuals was a weird thing to phone in for this game. But
Yeah.
overall, I mean, we're getting to aged right now. Overall, I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't think.
Yeah, if there's one thing that they could have probably, cheesed on, it would be, the visuals. And I think this is honestly the first, like, the game that made me, if this can segue into aged, I guess, made me go, graphics don't make everything. Graphics don't make the game. And Grand Theft Auto eventually came around to saying, hey, guess what we can do? But, this was, I think, the first example to me when I was a kid, especially in the, expecting 3D games. Where I'm like, you know what? It doesn't have to look great. As long as it plays well and sounds good and, I have fun doing it. Yeah. Then why, whatever, you know what I mean?
Right. All right. So since we're segueing into aged right now, DMC, why don't you kick it off?
All right. So it's funny as I'm like praising that right there.
2.5.
So yes, actually, straight up 2.5, and I'm not kidding. Because while we're talking about it being, this big open world that they have, it's also a big empty world, if you think about it. The entire golf course exists for one mission. You don't do anything in the golf course. It's just a big empty area. All the side missions you were talking about that you do after the game, you're in a car. You are driving a taxi. You're driving a ambulance. You're driving a police car. You're not really experiencing this open world. You're simply driving cars around in it. And that's where future Grand Theft Autos really improve upon, because they add more things to do in this real world. And some people that might be just the right amount. Like, I've never been able to get into San Andreas because it's too much, in my opinion. Like, I remember being extremely turned off in San Andreas, where it's like, come back when you've put on more muscle or something like that. I'm like, boop, power off, fuck that. I don't want to play this. Like, that's just dumb.
I wasn't the
biggest
San Andreas fan either.
Right. But Grand Theft Auto 5, I think, really, got that dialed in as far as what you can do. You could seriously play, I think, 36 holes in Grand Theft Auto 5. And you can take a mountain bike and go on a mountain. But that's not fair to compare them necessarily, but that's just to show how far we've come, and then really how this is a big world, but at the end of the day, it's pretty empty. A lot of those buildings that you were talking about too, that really define Miami and stuff, are just one or two of them, and then the rest of them are just gray blocks. Yeah. And if you think about it, like, the reason why I fall off a lot on the third island when I do replays is because you go from the personality to corporate buildings, and I get it, that's supposed to exist in this city, but there's a lot of them where it's a big building with a giant empty parking lot with maybe 3 or 4 cars in it, and it's like, oh wow, this feels so alive. I feel like it goes actually backwards, where it felt alive to begin with, and then we're like, shit, we have to make more, and I don't know, let's throw a city in there and then call it the metropolitan area or the business area, and that's it. You know what I mean? So I think that's where it starts to fall off for me quick, because like when I beat the game on the PlayStation 2, I was like, I kind of want to play it on the Xbox just to see the differences. And then when I got about halfway through, I'm like, okay, I think I've got it as far as what the Xbox version has different comparatively. And yeah, that's just, it gets empty. And there's little moments, I'm sure, again, some people might be listening being like, well, what about the people that are underwater that have the cement shoes? Okay, yeah, that's cool. There's a boat. There's 2 boat wrecks, if I remember properly. There's some things, but like, it's just a little set piece. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing anything besides going like, oh, that's cool. So it's an open world, but it's an empty open world, especially by today's standards. And even still, like, the game that followed after it definitely gave you a lot more stuff to do. So
true. Yeah. That's actually what I meant by, like, they perfected it, because I thought that San Andreas was too much. So I thought this was the sweet spot. But you are right in the sense that, like, Grand Theft Auto 4 and Grand Theft Auto 5 did a better job of giving you things to do in that emptiness. Like, I remember, like, you could like go to the bar and like just play darts or drink or something like that. You could go to the bowling alley and actually bowl. So yeah, so they did do a lot more once they got further into the series, but yeah, I landed on 3.5 for a lot of what you're saying here. The biggest reason for me was just the controls. It felt old to me when I was trying to fight people and kill people, and that's a big part of the game, where you're trying to kill people for like the whole time is what you're trying to do. So when the game makes that hard due to the controls, or due to like just how they schemed the controller, or whatever issue it might have been, it feels old for that reason. It also feels old because you're listening to 80 songs the whole time.
But I feel like that also helps it snapshot in time. And I apologize to jump in with even more. But another thing I wanted to bring up too was jank. There's a lot of jank in this game. There's a lot of stuff that just doesn't work as it's supposed to. I remember mentioning to you that there was a mission where you're supposed to follow the person to the hideout, but because the AI was, I don't know, programmed so loosely, they blew their own car up. So he blew up and then he glitched and just stood in place. And it's like, well, I can't finish this mission now because he won't go anywhere. And I stood next to him for a while and he did nothing. And then when I targeted him, he killed me instantly. And I'm like, oh, okay, like that's kind of frustrating. And there's just some missions where just weird shit like that happened when I was playing, just, weird little glitches here and there. And I get it. Yeah. Again, it's such a big world, especially for its time. I mean, they were designing this shit on Pentium 2s and 3s, like I get it. But at the same time too, it's just like, if we're going to be rating it for its age, there's a lot of jank that just exists in this game. Some collisions that don't make sense. One of the dumbest things is that I remember I was running and I just went off like a little bit of a ledge, like between the street and stuff. And I took 12 damage. I'm like, what the fuck? I jumped off of a building and I took 8 damage. And I jumped off the highest building you can jump off of. I'm like, what in the world?
Yeah, but you ever twist your ankle though, bro?
That's true, exactly. And I was just like,
and it hurts for the long haul. You know what I mean? It just doesn't hurt for a second,
right? And then, like you said, too, quality of life stuff that just didn't exist back then. As far as you have to make sure you go back and save, which I'm not going to knock it on myself for getting to, because that's not fair. And then the mission stuff, like if you die, okay, now you have to go back and you have to buy guns again, and you have to go hopefully get the cab and all that shit. So there's just stuff that's like, it's best left in the past for sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. What about you, Yaiser? Where'd you land?
I went higher than you guys. I don't know if it's maybe because of the definitive edition. Maybe it was a little more refined. Maybe I didn't experience all that much jank. I also cheated a lot, so
probably.
I just did weapons cheats and one level cheats.
Yeah.
Just like, come on, why are we doing this?
I mean, what other cheats do you need?
No, I mean that's it, really, right? But
have you ever done the dodo physics cheats? Because it turns every single car into the dodo from GTA 3. So as you start driving, it just takes off. So if like you get in an Infernus, you eventually have to start flying in the air. It's a lot of fun doing that.
I remember that.
Sounds pretty fun, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm at a 4, dude, just because I had fun with it, and I didn't really, like I said, I didn't experience all that much jank with it. I don't know. I had a lot of fun, and in the definitive, I don't remember the original, but the definitive edition basically is just auto aim. You hold the trigger, it'll fucking shoot whoever's in front of you.
That definitely is not how it works in this. If you hold shoot, you just shoot forward. That's it.
Yeah. No,
the definitive editions made it way easier to shoot people for sure.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I play. That's what I'm fucking gonna base it on. So.
Yep. Oh. So to be fair, Yaiser and DMC, for your visual score, Yaiser, I gave you 3.5, which is what you called the PS2 version.
Okay.
You gave the definitive version a little bit higher than that, but since we're reliving retro, I figured we'll go with the retro console that you played on. And then DMC, I gave you the Xbox score because I feel like that was your preferred version.
Yeah, that sounds right. The Xbox version definitely looked better. So
okay.
Yeah.
So as far as overall scores go, DMC, you came in the lowest at a 3.85. I came in next at a 3.95, and Yaiser, which is very rare that Yaiser is ever the highest on a game, he came in at a 4.2. But we're all right around the same area here, and that averages out to a 4.
Which I think is bang on for this game.
It sounds fair, yeah.
Yep, an 8 out of 10, especially 20 years later, 22 years later. If you can make a game as a game designer, and 22 years later people are saying, "Hey, it's an 8 out of 10," I'd be like, "Hell yeah, we did pretty good."
Yeah, they did it. They
yeah,
did
for sure. Yeah, exactly. And just as a reference point, the last game we played was a PS2 game, Need for Speed Underground, and that averaged out to a 3.68. And I think these two probably are 2 of my top 10 PS2 games. So I mean, I think it's pretty fair.
Yeah, that's pretty high up there for sure.
All right. Anything else we want to add to the Vice City convo before we randomize what we're playing for the next month?
Oh boy, I feel like if I get just like a thread here or there, I could probably pop. Oh, the boats. Fuck the boats. Definitely that.
Okay.
You can tell that watercraft was like an afterthought for them, in my opinion, where it's like, we got to have boats. It's Miami. And they're like, we'll worry about designing the gameplay of them later. They're miserable. They're all miserable.
I did appreciate the fact that you needed throttle to turn, though. It was like a real boat.
That was cool. Yeah. Like, because that's one of my favorite things, like the handbrake and all the cars. I just love it. That's in the boat. It felt like you're drifting in the boat. And it's like, that's cool, I guess. But like, And one cool thing for the boat that I'll give them credit for is that if it was storming, there would be higher waves. So like driving the boat was different depending on like the weather. And I think driving in general might be. I feel like the PCJ is a little harder when it's raining versus like a dry day.
So. That is actually another good point about the weather that we didn't really bring up during the visuals or anything like that. When it is raining, there's nobody out on the streets, which I thought was a nice touch.
Oh yeah, that's a good point.
Although it is annoying when you're trying to run over a cop to get two of them to follow you into a garage. Not to bring up that mission for the nighttime, but yeah, it's raining every single time that mission happens for me. So yeah, I gotta get them another way. I gotta get out of my car and shoot at somebody. No, it's fine. I thought that was really a really nice touch though. Yeah, because that would make sense, right? People don't want to. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, that's GTA Vice City in a nutshell, about 23 years later or so. Yaiser, would you recommend that somebody goes and relives this game?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Cool. DMC?
If you're an 80s head, sure. If you like Grand Theft Auto, sure. But I could see a lot of people, like, hey, like, I want to get in GTA. I'd be like, play 5. That's fine. Honestly.
Yeah. Just skip it and go to 5.
I wouldn't fault it. It's not like they're missing a big story.
What if somebody said like, hey, I just got done playing 5. Would you recommend that they go play Vice City or 4?
I don't like 4, so I'd say Vice City. Yeah. I've tried to get into 4 probably a dozen times and it just never clicks with me.
Yeah. So is Vice City your second favorite GTA?
So Vice City and 5 are the only GTAs that I can remember beating. Those are the only 2 that I have played to completion.
Okay, so I guess that would probably check out then.
Yeah.
I would also I would definitely recommend the game, but I would also just kind of just mention that it's a little jankier than you probably remember if you did play it at all, and it's certainly not going to control like GTA 5 if you played that recently.
Yeah.
So expect a lot of jank with it, like DMC was saying.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, I still think there's a lot of fun to be had with this game. So if you want to have fun, you want to play GTA, and you haven't played it yet, then yeah, give it a shot.
Definitely.
All right. Do you want to give us a recommendation now, DMC?
Sure. Yeah.
Or do you want us to randomize first?
I'll go ahead and randomize and I'll do the recommendation. That's fine.
All right, let's go ahead and do this randomizer. All right, what you just heard is the longest randomizer in YouTube history. So it's been 6 months since I've heard it. It doesn't get any shorter. All right, DMC, you get to try to guess this game. Now, I think you've played it pretty recently, so hopefully you get it right away.
Flushed away for the GameCube.
Not that, thankfully. Okay. Not that one, thankfully. No disrespect to whichever one of your wonderful subs offered that for you to play. And certainly do not join our Patreon and put it in there. Thank you.
Oh, actually, my game got picked, so I guess I can do that now.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So for this one, we have an action adventure shooting game is what it's listed as on howlongtobeat.com for the Game Boy Advanced, developed and published by Nintendo, and it was released in November 17th, 2022 in North America.
That ain't right if it's GBA in 2022. But is it Fusion?
2022?
Yeah.
Oh, 2002. I'm sorry.
That's Fusion, then, isn't it?
It is. It's Metroid Fusion.
Bingo bongo, my dude. Yeah.
This is our first Metroid game.
Cool.
I'm pretty excited about that.
That's really funny because my recommendation is Metroid 2.
That works.
It's funny.
That works. That's actually not planned at all, so that's hilarious.
That is really, really funny.
I'll write that down. Metroid 2. And that's for
not the DS one, yeah. So no one's allowed to play the DS one. I want you to play the Game Boy one.
Wait, nobody's allowed to play it?
No one ever. No one. But no, if you guys play it, I don't want somebody to be like, "Oh, I played the DS one. I played the Game Boy." It won't be the same experience at all.
Yeah, no, I think the DS is way harder to emulate anyway. So Game Boy is definitely where we're gonna go with that one.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah, so we will be joined at some point next month by Radical Reggie.
Oh wow,
YouTube.
cool.
Yeah, to talk about Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance, and I'm pretty excited about this one. Like, again, I'm not much of a Metroid guy, like at all. I've dabbled with like the original. I haven't even tried Super Metroid, which I know is a huge one, and I can't wait to get to that game eventually because I've heard nothing but great things.
It's really, really good.
Yeah, so this one says main story takes about 5 hours or so. Main plus sides take about 6 hours. Completionist is 8.5. So, given a month, we should be able to beat it.
Yeah,
we should be able to, but we'll see.
When I beat it, because I beat it for the first time just last month. My buddies and I were doing a series complete kind of thing for the year. Like that's my like side thing that I'm doing, and I'm like, oh, I'll do Metroid. That'll be fun. And I've beaten all the side-scrolling ones now in just the past couple months. They don't take that long. But that one took me about 7.5 hours when I played Metroid Fusion. So you should be able to get through that pretty quick. It's hard, so be ready for that. It is a hard one.
Ooh.
And
at times.
Bonus points for Yaiser here because you have the expansion pack for the Switch. It's on there.
Sick, dude.
Yeah, so you can just play it on your Switch, which probably means it comes with Rewind.
Fuck yeah.
So that might
be handy. There was one boss that was a nightmare.
I might spend the extra coin just to get Rewind for this game.
Yeah,
Nice.
dude, might as well.
I might, yeah. But yeah, super excited for that. So sub and follow whatever if you want to see us talk about Metroid Fusion next month with Radical Reggie. That's awesome. One more Patreon plug before we get out of here. $2 a month, I think, is the minimum. It's been a bit since I talked about it, but I think it's like $2, and you can put your game on there that you want us to play. Every 4 weeks or so, we pick a Patreon game to play, and it's going to be the quickest way that we play your game. And now you're going to be able to get our episodes a week early, and you're going to be able to get our entire gameplay footage. So the 6 or so hours of GTA that I streamed, you're going to be able to watch all that for some reason if you want to. You're going to be able to watch every single time I failed this stupid mission, which I'm sure you're going to love. Or, hey, I don't care. It's on there. You can watch it or don't. But yeah, so that's pretty much it from us. DMC, you want to tell the people where they can find you?
Sure. You can follow me, DMCPCRT, on Twitch. I'm live every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I also do primary content on TikTok, as long as the government allows it. But yeah, so I also have a YouTube, Instagram, and an X and or Twitter. My X is very much more day-to-day, chat about sports and things like that. Quickest way to chat with me if you want to do that. But yeah, so if you want to follow for live games, Twitch, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then for general content as far as gaming, tech, computers, and occasionally football, TikTok at the same name. So
very cool.
Nice.
All right. Thanks as always, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate you coming on here, and we'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.
All right. See you guys in a month or so, probably. See you later.